There was a time when extreme sports were huge, enormous even. The X Games were at the height of their popularity, skating brands were flying off the shelves, and most importantly to me at the time, Tony Hawk was at the peak of its quality. But what a lot of people forget is that, as with any craze, there were a ton of products that don't end up getting as much attention. So today we're looking at one of those other games, Aggressive Inline. Inline skating was never quite as popular as skateboarding, especially in a professional sense, but it did have its enthusiasts, and those people are who Acclaim was ostensibly aiming for with this game. Gameplay-wise, Aggressive Inline feels a lot like Tony Hawk, and at first I thought it was just a bad version of that same gameplay. The timing and execution of both tricks and combos is off enough to where I was just kind of lost at first. But as I played more and more, I realized that Aggressive Inline isn't a worse version of Tony Hawk. It's just different. And those minor differences actually end up making this an extremely interesting game. Sure, it still has grinds, jump tricks, manuals, and reverts, some of them under different names, but the different timing that's required makes it an intriguing challenge for old school Tony Hawk fans. The same basics, but the nuances are different, making it fun to explore. Of course, to make it worth the relearning process, the maps need to be good, and they most definitely are. There are all sorts of great trick lines to uncover, and the maps are also rather large, especially if you manage to unlock their secret areas. Aggressive Inline was one of the first games of this sort to get rid of the timer that always hung over your head. And it's the one thing I don't really like about the game. By just allowing the player free roam over our level, the objectives often seem a bit more lenient. But I'm fully willing to admit this is a personal preference thing. I just prefer the challenge of having to tackle something within a time limit, having to find that perfect route just to get it done right as the buzzer sounds. But getting rid of that timer also has its advantages, like the aforementioned map size. If you had a 2-minute time limit, the game's maps would be incredibly daunting. You wouldn't see a whole lot of the map on your first attempt, and you probably wouldn't end up making use of most of it in order to string together your combo objectives. So the lack of a timer does definitely add a sense of freedom to the game. Now, I usually don't talk about music much in my reviews, but for an extreme sports game, I feel it's crucial. The soundtracks of the Tony Hawk games were such a huge part of those games. And while Aggressive Inline's soundtrack, like a lot of the Tony Hawk ones, doesn't necessarily hold up as well today as it may have at the time, I will praise the game's soundtrack for being very evocative of a time and place. This game came out in 2002, and if I were to turn on a rock radio station that sort of leaned towards punk, I would have expected these songs to come out of the radio. But I think the reason I may have loved Aggressive Inline as much as I did might have had to do with timing. This game is fantastic, but I'm also playing it at a time when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 has just come out and kind of shattered my dreams of a good modern game like this. Going back and playing one that I've never played before, and even better yet, finding out it's actually a great game, has been a fantastic experience, one that I recommend any old school Tony Hawk fan have. As far as availability is concerned, this game is super cheap. It's available on PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. All the platforms are fine. You can get it $5 or less. If you like Tony Hawk, you should play Aggressive Inline. Every Monday, I look at a game that's at least 10 years old, what I would consider retro, and I review it as it exists today, in the context of everything else that's come out since. Is it still worth playing? If you like that idea, be sure to hit subscribe so you can see the latest videos every week. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button, and thanks for watching.